Welcome back, everyone. We are here again with Kelly Dawn. Long time no see, ladies. But welcome back to Beyond Dimensional. I'm Liz.
I'm Lori.
And if you're watching, yeah, there it is. That's Piper.
Hi.
Um, and this is part two with our fantastic guest, Kelly Dawn. She is a psychic guide and witchcraft mentor. If you have not listened to part one, go back, pause, stop, go back to part one, listen to it, because we got into a lot of great details on Kelly and how she utilizes her practice working with demons. And we got into a really great understanding of what demons are and what the preconceived notions are and perception are of demons versus how she works with them and what the real truth of them are. And in this episode, we're going to dive a little bit deeper. We want to understand, how she's utilizing this in all of the different programs that she has, as well as her podcast. We're going to dive into the business side of Kelly's world and learn more about her. So thank you for being here, Kelly.
Thank you for having me.
Yay. Okay, so I guess we'll jump right in. I know, last time we're on the edge of our seats thinking about how you use your practice as a business. How did you create the programs that you've created, and what is it like to work with you as a client? Start anywhere in that realm, and we can just jump in.
Okay, so I'll take you back to the beginning of my coaching business, which was around, I think 2015, 2016 is when I first got into coaching. And at that point in time, I had my own housekeeping business. And once I got a taste of entrepreneurship, I was like hooked on all things personal development. And at that time, I had a puppy. His name was Oliver. He's no longer with us, but I knew that I didn't want to be cleaning houses and I wanted to be working from home. And I also knew that I'd been through a ton of stuff in my younger years and come out the other side. And that if I could get to a place where I was really loving my life, where I was happy, where I was healthy, where I was creating a business that at that point in time was like the thing that I was really lit up to do. I loved cleaning. I loved that business for that point in time in my life. And I remember sitting there reading like Tony Robbins and Brian Tracy and these giants of the personal development world at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And Oliver, he'd be on my lap. I'd be drinking my coffee before I went out to clean houses. And I was taking these things I was learning and applying them, and I was seeing results. And I thought, I bet you there's someone out there that doesn't want to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning reading these books. They just want someone to talk to about this stuff to create the life that they want. And that was like my introduction to the coaching world. And then once I got into that space, I thought, well, what do I love to really talk about? And magic and witchcraft was the thing. And so in the earlier days, my coaching was really centered around basically helping people create what they want, manifest what they want, remember that they're really powerful and they're the ones responsible for their entire experience. And back then I was bringing in elements of witchcraft, but it was very light because I definitely would not be talking about demons back then in public at all, really. And back then I was talking about moon phases and more general manifestation principles. And I thought I had to be very light and fluffy, like a love and light spiritual leader, and nothing wrong with that whatsoever, but that's not who I was. But I thought that's how I had to present myself. And so everything was centered basically around manifestation with some witchcraft brought into it. And then from the get-go, I've always worked with entrepreneurs. I come from an entrepreneurial family. So those were my favorite people to coach and to have conversations with. And then over time, it really developed into this mix of working with the unseen realm, connecting with your inner witch, as well as aligning your mindset and your energy with what it is you want to create in your life and in your business. And I've had a bunch of different programs over the years. I've gone in a couple different directions, but it's really stayed in that central zone of how do we create more of what you want and how do we do it easier by leveraging the power of the unseen realm, by working with energetics instead of the hustle and the grind. Because I'm a Capricorn double Aries. Like, I love me some hard work, and I come from a very masculine dominated world. I grew up in electrical wholesale. And so everything was hard work, struggle, sacrifice. And when I started working with mentors, when I dove more into the spiritual side of my business, bringing that into what I was doing, I was like, wait a second, this gets to be a lot easier when we change the way that we see ourselves, when we change the way that we see the world. And then now that's evolved into programs that help people really show up more fully expressed in their business, because that's such a huge thing. I feel really any strategy is going to work, but if you're hiding, if you're afraid to be seen, if you're not saying what you truly want to say in your content, speaking to the people you want to talk to, it's going to feel like a struggle. Whereas if you're just yourself and you let yourself be fully you in your business, you're going to magnetize the right people. So that's really the focus of the business work that I do. And then with the spiritual programs, I have the Order, which teaches people how to work with demons, demonic money alchemy, which is really centered around money. But the overriding theme, I guess, would be connecting with your own inner witch, with your own boldness, with your own authenticity, and allowing that to be the guiding force. And then, like, I do have some people come into my world and they're in everything. Like they're into the demonology, they're into the business stuff, they're into both angles that I go with in my work. And then other people come in and they just want one or the other. And then the other thing that I do is I incorporate psychic guidance into the work. And with that, it's really looking at what's going on beneath the surface. Like, for example, I've had clients come to me and they're struggling with their business. And they're like, I just don't understand why I can't make more money. And then we do a reading, we go within, we have some conversations. And it's like, there's an unhealed relationship from like 10 years ago. Like, you never came to terms with that relationship closing. We got to clean that up. And that's the thing that came up in a reading. When the energy is cleaned up around that, they have the money breakthrough. So it's really a combination of bringing in the magic, bringing in the working with the unseen realm, as well as a very practical approach of, okay, how are we showing up today? What are we doing today in our business? And blending everything together.
I love that approach. Yeah. Holistic in any sense of the word. I think however you're looking at it through whatever lens, and with this, it seems that witchcraft and alchemy is that holistic lens, makes sense for everyone. You can't spot treat humans, right? Yeah. Just like if you're working out, you can't just like lose stomach fat. You got to lose fat everywhere, right? So strange analogy, Liz, but I work in fitness. What I can say. So, when you mostly work with other witches who are working on their businesses in the spiritual side, or what does that work look like? I guess if I was a new witch and I came to you and I said, I want to build my company, or my brand or my business, I want to work with you, Kelly. Help me make and scale this into a $1 billion company. What does that look like?
Where do you start? I love this question. So we would start with your vision. So when you allow yourself to dream really big, when you really tap into the infinite possibilities of what this business could look like, what comes through for that, and then as well as what do you want with your overall life? Because what can happen is we get so focused on building a business, we build ourselves another job and we're not actually loving our life. We've just created a different way to make money that's not really going to work for us long term. So I really encourage my clients to tap into that bigger picture vision that they have for their business, for their life. And then when we work together, it's a process of aligning to that vision. And what that means is we're looking at, okay, who is the version of me who's running that company? And everyone's going to be different. But let's say your next level is like a multi-six-figure business. Okay, so we'll use that number. We'll kind of play in the energy of that number. What does that look like in terms of the offers that you have? Do you have a team? Like, where are you located? What does your dream ideal work day look like? And we're tapping into your unique success blueprint. And then along the way, what we're doing is having conversations around what feels like a gap right now. And so, for instance, you might say, you know what? I know when I'm running that level of business that I really desire, I'm going to be impacting thousands of people. I want to be having conversations with my audience. I'm like, okay, well, what feels like the next aligned step to get there? Well, I'd want to be doing some Instagram lives, or I'd want to start a podcast. And then the conversation is, okay, so if that's not happening now, let's get those steps in place to make that a reality. And then, of course, our humanness comes into play. And there's always going to be fear and resistance and our brain telling us that we can't do things or that we have to wait. And so much of the work is looking at the thoughts you're thinking and the actions that you're taking from that place, because that's how we're always creating our reality. And then depending on the client, some people, they want to really dive into the witchcraft side of things. And so on a call, we might have a conversation around a certain spell or a certain spirit to work with to amplify the results that they're going to be getting in their business that work with the actions that they're taking. And other people are like, no, just please pull some cards for me, tap in. I'm feeling really stuck maybe between, like an example would be like, I have a couple different offers that feel really aligned, but I'm not really sure which one is going to be the best fit for me right now. We'll go in, I'll do a reading, we'll have a conversation around what feels like sticky and what feels maybe out of alignment, and then map something out where it's like, okay, this is the offer to roll out now. This is the marketing plan. This is what you really want to focus on in terms of the identity that you're in as you're rolling this offer out. And then it's really an evolution. So when we work together, it's not like you're going to come into my world, you're going to learn X, Y, and Z, and then you're going to leave. That's not what it's like. It's more of, this is the vision, and we're going to align to that vision each and every day through our work. And then that vision is obviously going to expand. So we're always changing and moving based on your soul desires and what feels right for you.
That's amazing. I'm like, ooh, let's work together. That sounds so fun. So are all the businesses then based in witchcraft, or is it sometimes that the person is a witch and spiritually attuned and their business is totally unrelated? So it sounds like, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people who do come to me, they do identify as a witch, or they have a spiritual business. So even if they don't identify as a witch, they work as a psychic, or they do some sort of holistic healing. And then I have other people who come to me, they're real estate agents, they're sex workers, they're people who are not in the witchcraft realm, but they're really drawn to do things differently. And a lot of people I work with, like, they've done the hustle culture. They've done the boss babe thing where they're hustling and grinding 24/7 to make things happen. And then they get burnt out and they're like, wait a second, what used to work for me, it's not feeling good anymore. Or I have people who've come to me who have built up a successful business. It's making money. It's working on paper, but they feel so disconnected to it. And they want to transition into doing work that really feels more in alignment for them. But they're like, how do I do this? What's my audience going to think? Am I going to lose money? And so we really dig into what feels best for you and how can we make that a reality, regardless of whether they identify as a witch or not.
Gotcha. Yeah. Are you also then working with people who if they are in the spiritual realm and that is their business, if they're a psychic or if they're whatever, do you do work with them to enhance their practice, or only if they're coming to you and ask that? Only if they're seeking help in that, or is that a separate program? Or how do you help train other witches to be better witches, I guess?
Yeah. So 1-to-1, it is really customized. And when someone's on the call with me or someone's in Voxer with me, anything goes. And so I might have someone who's been practicing witchcraft for 20 years, but they've never worked with demons and they're feeling a little bit of fear and hesitation, but also curiosity. And so our conversation would be centered on that. I've had clients come to me and, excuse me, they don't even resonate with the word witch. I've had a client years ago. She said, I just know that I like you. I'm not even into witchcraft, but, I just feel drawn to work with you. And we started working together around her business. But what we really focused on was her romantic relationships and her own unique magical practice. Even though she didn't really vibe with the word witch, she started doing these full moon spells that called in her soulmate. And it really took a different direction than what we thought it was going to at the beginning. But we just let the work be what it wanted to be together.
Do you do readings just in general? Someone wants to just do a tarot reading and whatever comes up, or do you tend to keep it more in the business space?
At this point in time, I really keep it more in the business space because that's how I know I'm going to deliver the best service to the client.
Yeah. Do you stick with tarot? Is that your number one?
I do tarot. I also love Lenormand, oracle cards, and I also will have my pendulum, and I do some automatic writing. So it's kind of like I have all my tools with me when we hop on a call. But like, say, for instance, I had a client check in with me in Voxer a couple days ago, and she said, can you just, feel into the situation and share with me what's coming through? And I just knew after hearing her voice, I'm like, okay, this is the deck that needs to come through for this. Like, it's the oracle deck or it's the pendulum. And I just kind of go with whatever I'm being guided to as far as the tool. But often what will come through is I might pull a couple cards, but then I start seeing images, or one of my clients' guides will come through and I'm like, oh, okay, here's the message. And it's just my job to deliver the information.
Got it. Do you consider yourself psychic?
It's so funny because I used to hesitate to use that word because I didn't think I was good enough to use the word psychic. And so I used to always just call myself an intuitive. I have fully embraced the word psychic. I love that word, and I feel like that's a really good fit for what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a tough one for me to ever get around, because it's like there's this perceived power in the term of being psychic,
Mhm.
right? But I think if you can tap into demons, spirits, ancestors, or whatever, you can get information about the future, just like you can about the past, right?
Exactly.
Um, so I have a few random questions. Are you ready for a random question round? I made
Oh,
some
for
notes.
sure. Yeah.
Proud of myself. I wrote things down. That's like a huge thing for me. I'm trying to learn not to interrupt and write things down. So excited. Okay. Random question number 1. Do you believe in karma?
I think we make our own. I think the
Okay.
choices that we make really determine the experiences that we're having.
Yes, which is part of karma. Do you believe you relive another lifetime to go through those lessons again and what you missed? So
Yeah.
past lives.
Yeah. I do believe that we come back and we come back and we come back until we learn everything that we need to learn.
Did you have experiences as you were growing up of things that signified a past life, or things that
Um,
you tuned into, or is witchcraft one of them?
I've had readings from other people that told me that I was a witch in a past life, but I've always felt like a connection to that word, and so I'm assuming that there is something there, but I haven't had any personal like big flashes of past lives as a witch.
Got it. Are there witches in your family in this lifetime that you're aware of?
Oh yeah, yeah,
So generational witchcraft is a thing. I find that common, by the way.
yeah.
Right, Liz? Does it seem like we experience that a lot? I know it is for me, but for others as well.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to meet someone who's like, I'm the very first witch in my family. And it's like the 21st century. Come on.
Well, as far as present day, though, not like not generational past life, but like, yeah, my
Yeah.
mom's a witch and my cousin's a witch, and whatever the case may be. Okay, and then our other favorite topic, or mine, aliens. What's your take on aliens and other beings?
Oh, I think they are definitely here in communication with us. And I love that you brought this up because I've always felt like Lucifer definitely has an alien energy around him. There's something that feels very, very much aligned with that as opposed to the other demons that feel more infernal. His energy is it's a lot less grounded, and it does feel like it's coming from somewhere that is not Earth. But yeah, I think aliens are definitely here. They want to communicate with us. I haven't had any personal experiences with them other than actually that's not true. There was one time I was having a massage and aliens came through. And I've also had some guides in the past that told me they were aliens, but it's not something I really feel a strong pull towards as sort of like getting deeper and exploring in my own.
So when they come through to you, not just aliens, but in general, when spirits or other guides outside, and I guess even demons, when they come through to you, do you see visually outside of your body, or is everything downloaded?
Yeah, everything feels very within, but I am very visual. And often when I'm in meditation, when I'm in the astral garden that I visit regularly, I will see like physical forms coming through. But with demons, usually it's more of a feeling and it's more of like a knowing. I don't always get like a strong physical form associated with them. Sometimes I do, but not always.
When it comes to dimensions, speaking about aliens and then, past life regression, even astral travel, and you talked about creating an astral temple with your clients. Um, how do you explain dimensions, and what is your experience traveling through them or other entities traveling through them, and how do you like to explain that?
Yeah, in my experience, we do live in a multi-dimensional universe where there's an infinite number of realities and like infinite number of timelines that we can be connecting with. And it's always coming back to the decisions that we're making that put us on different timelines and put us in different dimensions. But I feel we can jump, we can, hop around to different dimensions whenever we really want to. It's all based on what we feel is available for us. And so, like, for instance, I'm sure there's a dimension where I'm on a $50 million yacht, but I don't feel connected to that dimension whatsoever. I don't really have a desire to be in that reality. So for me to actually access that dimension, at least right now, I don't really see that as being possible. Whereas the reality where I have a multi-7-figure business, that feels very doable, that feels very accessible. And so that feels like something that can be jumped to.
Interesting. Have you had the experience of astral travel?
I've explored a little bit of that. I love the gateway meditations. And I had an out of body experience using gateway. And then I also did some traveling in consciousness in those other dimensions. And I met a teacher one time that showed me this image of what it was like when we allowed ourselves to dismantle the structure that we were upholding that was creating our current reality. It came through in a very strong visual form, which I can't even remember to this point in time. But when I had it, it was like, okay, this is helping things click into place. But that was through some astral travel that I did with the gateway meditations.
And what is gateway meditations? I don't know what that is.
Oh my gosh. Okay. They are a series of meditations developed by the Monroe Institute. And there's some CIA documents that recently became declassified. Well, recently, 20 years ago, I think it was like 2003 or so, they became declassified. But the meditations take you into deeper levels of consciousness. And there's different tools in those meditations to explore consciousness. And you work your way up through the meditations to go deeper and deeper. But it's really trippy. I didn't like it at first. I was really uncomfortable listening to them because there's a process that you're guided through. And I'm just like, oh, this feels really weird. And then once I got into it and once I started really doing them on a regular basis, I noticed that my psychic abilities opened up. Those synchronicities started happening a lot more. I'm like, oh, okay, this is really giving me like this feeling of we're truly bending and shaping our reality. And then the more we're able to access different levels of consciousness, the more we open up to receive everything from information to opportunities and those different things that we want to create. So I'm a huge fan of those. Yeah.
So that's interesting. So people can find those and listen.
There are a lot of them that are available on YouTube. There's some on the Gateway channel itself. And then the CIA documents that explain really what's happening when you're exploring consciousness. Those are available to download as a PDF from the CIA website.
And that whole gateway and CIA documents, I mean, I need a whole episode or 5 just to dig into that stuff because it's so wild. It's just unbelievable for sure. So
100%.
Continued on the alien topic, one of the things that Liz and I have recently experienced was a workshop session with someone who channels aliens. An alien, not multiple, channels an alien being. What are your thoughts on that type of thing? Do you believe that we, can channel aliens directly or any being, I guess, and use our physical body to allow them to speak? What is your take on that?
Yeah, I've actually channeled a lot of messages from demons through automatic writing, and I feel we can do that with any kind of entity that we are connecting with and get some really valuable information from them.
Interesting. Yeah.
Is there a different process for you to do that specifically with automatic writing versus just connecting? Or is it all part of the same experience and you just allow for whatever is going to come through? Or, curious.
Yeah, it's all part of the same experience. And what I'll do is I'll always have a journal with me when I'm in my circle connecting with the demons that I work with. But if I do feel like this is something that I want to channel, I'm really in the mood to access some information, I'll bring my laptop in and I'll open up a blank document, and I'll connect with the demon, have a conversation with it, and start the conversation flowing. And I'll just start typing. And at first it will just be gibberish just to get the fingers moving and to get the body relaxed. And then as soon as I start asking questions and messages start getting downloaded, everything gets typed out. And then I'll go back and do some editing afterwards because I always end up typing things that don't really make sense, but I'll edit it right afterwards. And then what I like to do is, especially if it's a personal message around something specific that I'm asking the demon, I will set those messages aside for a few days and then go back and read them. And I find that to be such a powerful way to gain the true insight that's meant to come through, because we've given it time to marinate within us. And then we can go back and read the message, and it's like, oh man, like mind blown information that we can get.
Yeah.
How do you tell the difference in those moments? And I guess it's just, now at this point, you're probably so used to the feeling of being fully connected versus not. But even at the beginning, I'm sure there were moments that it was hard to decipher what was your own internal thought and what was coming from something else. So is part of that process going back to it and deciphering some of that? Or how did you start to really sift out what was you and what was them?
Yeah, well, the first step is getting over that hump and not worrying if it's just you or not, and allowing yourself that time and space for the messages to flow through, because most of us, we're going to feel kind of weird. And like, yeah, this totally is just me typing here. But I think a lot of people have that thought. But the more you do it, the more you get used to the feeling in your body as you're channeling messages. And then I've also noticed that the language is a little bit different. Like when I have, in my book, I have channel messages from the demons that I work with. And the language, I mean, it's English, but it's not really the way that I would normally speak. And I'm like, okay, that's definitely a message channeled from Lucifer, from Belial, not myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting. I would love to have a moment like that. It would be super cool to be like, this is not my words. I know it's funny. Like Lori's had those moments too, where she says and I watch her as well. And it's interesting to watch people when they're having those moments. So I can imagine if one of your clients is watching you and you're in your space, is that a different experience? Like, are you also doing that? I guess now I'm coming up with a new question as I'm chatting to myself. Do you feel different when you're being watched by someone?
Not necessarily. It's interesting though. Like if I'm doing a reading for a client, I usually do a Zoom video call. I'll be talking to the client as me. And then as I start using my tools, usually it's cards. And as I start channeling information, it's like I know I'm still there. I don't feel like I'm possessed by any kind of entity or anything. But after the message comes through, sometimes the client will be like, what did you just say? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, so then they always have the option to record the call, but I'm like, I let things come through and I often don't even know really what's coming through. It's coming through so quickly. And because it is being channeled, I always recommend that they either record the call or take some notes, because it's gone once it leaves my mouth.
Yeah.
I think the difference in what you're talking about, Kelly, is the person that we saw when they channeled, they became the alien.
Right.
Right. So it was more performative, or could be seen as more performative, not in a negative sense. Like, I'm not saying it wasn't accurate or real, but it's more like that. I just don't have that. And that could be, I don't have access to that. It could be because I'm not really like, hey, take over my body and just talk through me. Like, that's not really something I'm into doing. But it's very interesting. And, I don't watch myself read people. I'm sure you don't watch yourself read people. But it wasn't until recently that I learned, like, we do have, when we're reading, a different,
You have tells.
yeah, there's difference, because the only thing I notice for myself is that I become calmer and a little bit more focused than my normal self. I'm a little less scattered. I don't know. Is that right, Liz? Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know when you're talking to someone, because you'll first of all, you won't be talking, which is not unusual. You do have space in between. Usually it's me that's talking too much. Yeah, your eyes will start to look up into corners as if someone's talking to you. and you'll like almost, you'll be listening because you're good at multitasking, but it's like you're trying to listen to two people at once.
Yeah, I used to think that was just schizophrenia setting in, but apparently it's actually not. So good to know. Good to have learned.
Stay tuned and find out if Lori's really schizophrenic.
Ask me in 10 years. I mean,
Yeah.
We'll see. Oh gosh, I shouldn't even put that in the universe. I take that back.
Yeah.
I also am curious your thought on, like, can everybody be psychic? Can everybody become a witch?
I think absolutely they can. I feel if someone's drawn to this work, it's for a reason. And I feel it's something like a musical ability. Some people are going to jump onto this path and they're going to pick certain things up, like maybe it's channeling or doing readings or different types of magic, and it's going to feel like second nature to them. And other people might have to do a little more work for it. But I do believe that everyone has these abilities, especially when we're talking like psychic abilities, to open up and receive that information. But unfortunately, we've been conditioned to believe that it's all nonsense. And even when we get older, we're like, no, I really do believe in this. That conditioning can run really deep and close people off because they tend to second guess every message. And they'll say things like, well, I think I saw this, or I think I heard this voice. It's like, well, did you or didn't you? Because just once you start owning the fact that you are accessing information, then it's like the floodgates open, and that level of certainty that you have in your ability to access psychic information really determines how much you're able to get and how accurate it is. And I mean, nothing's going to be 100%, not in magic, not when we're doing psychic work, but the more that we stand in this place of, this is who I am, this is what I do, I'm able to access this, the easier it's going to be to make that your reality, where that's a very true thing for you.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. That's been my personal experience for sure. The hardest part is that just me? Am I just thinking that? That's taken me the longest to overcome, and I still have to work on it. It's like something comes through and I'm like, is that coming through or is that my thought? And so that's that, kind of fine line. And I think, to your point, taking that out is huge. You just have to be open and try not to overanalyze every little thing. Is hard. It's hard to not
allow the question to exist in whatever ways. But, and I think to your point, it may not be that everyone has the gifts to hear from everyone else's spirits and this and that, but the very basics of it are for people to understand their own intuition and listen to themselves, because a lot of people can't even access their own inner thoughts and their own inner desires. There's so much that's been, caked on, and layers of societal pressures and outside influence that have really dampened their ability to feel in their own being, right? To like really allow for the love frequency, right, to be released, which actually gets me to a question about this, because you mentioned frequencies before, of each demon having its own frequency and different things like that. And I just started listening to the Map of Consciousness book, and it is super fascinating to think about, especially because my science logic brain really wants to be able to piece together all of the kind of what we know from science and how we can bridge that into the spiritual realm. So when you talk about frequencies, are you referring to that same kind of like the energy field? And do you, when you talk about the frequency of demons, according to the chart, right, there's kind of an above the line and below the line, are they at a very high frequency close to love? Like, you were talking about your first experience with the demon who felt like the kind of the softest and gentlest. Is that where they are, or is it kind of all over the map?
I find demons, they tend to feel very heavy and grounded frequency wise. I haven't had a lot of experience working with angels, but when I have worked with them, I find their energy almost too much. It's such a high vibration. It's like I can't really function very well communicating with the angelic realm. Whereas demons, even though their energy is very heavy, very potent, it's super solid and it's super grounded. So it's not necessarily like a bad or good sort of situation, but it's more of like it comes through differently, but it's the same way that people feel different. Like when I'm sitting at the kitchen table across from my mom, she feels different than when my partner's sitting at the kitchen table with me. So there's not one that's good or bad, but everyone has their own energy that they dwell in the majority of the time. And demons tend to just all feel very, very similar. Like there are differences, but they do tend to have a very heavy, grounded feel to them. Whereas the angels, I find very high vibration. Some brief work that I've done with the fairy realm, I find their energy to be really chaotic. I actually had a healer years ago tell me, like, you're not meant to work with the fairy realm at all because their energy will just leave you completely scattered. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Really? That's so interesting too to think about, because as you were talking, I was thinking more of like, okay, if you're building music, right? Like as you were talking about there, if demons exist as a very powerful energy and frequency, but they're like the bass tone, right? Versus fairies, which might be playing at a similar volume, but their sound is much higher. and like a hummingbird, and then, you have the angelic realm that might be kind of in the soprano range and the treble clef. That's really like super sweet, but very powerful violin. That's the strings versus like chimes or whatever. Like I'm thinking about this as a symphony, of the cacophony of sound that is energy. Like they could all be in the same frequency, but the waves hit you in a different way, if that makes sense. Because I imagine that, you do feel them in a very positive energy field that is close to that enlightenment and love and healing and that kind of vibe from them, even though much of, their perception is held in this, like, and when you say infernal, you don't mean this, but like hell and like below ground, deep in the depths of the earth, where you'll burn forever in eternity.
The fiery pits.
Yes.
The imagination that was needed to create this book of tales called the Bible is just awesome. Like these people should have been around writing Hollywood scripts. In fact, they're probably the reincarnation. These people writing are probably reincarnation of these people that came up with these stories because they're so intense. So when we talk about angels, I have such a hard time with the division of angel, demon, spirit, world, because to me, angels don't exist and demons don't exist in the dark versus light. I'm not saying they're not, demons aren't real, but the dark light. When you talk about angels, what are angels to you? What do they mean? What do they represent?
Yeah, to me, they're different types of spirits, and they do have they do have a different energy. And I feel when it comes to this kind of work, there is that collective consciousness at play as well. And so even though angels aren't necessarily a Christian thing, a lot of that has been put on top of them. And so a lot of people will call on angels for healing and help. And in my experience, it feels like when we work with angels, we're going to them to do something for us. Like I need Archangel Michael for healing or for another angel for protection. Whereas when we work with demons, they're helping us go within and provide what we think that we need externally from ourselves. And so like in the case of healing, someone might call on an angel for healing and they might get great results with that. But if they're working with a demon, the demon's going to be like, we're going to have the sickness completely take you over. So you become the sickness and you control it. Right. So it's kind of just a different approach with the same, you're still getting the same result, but going at it from a different way.
Yeah. Interesting.
Cool.
Definitely makes sense to me.
Well, I do have one more question that's going to kind of bring us back to your business. And then we can wrap up, and thank you so much for all your time. But I've been thinking this whole time, I'm like, don't let her leave without asking about the money alchemy situation, because we got into money. You mentioned money in the previous episode. And I feel like, you're working with people who want to increase their success and I assume profitability in business. So money comes up a lot in the work that you do. And you mentioned before how, demons, they're not going to give you the winning lottery ticket. They're going to lead you on a path to help you find the quote money, show me the money. That's how they do it. So walk us through a little bit of what that work is and how you help people to realize their own financial wealth.
Oh, I love this topic. Yeah, money is one of those things. It's such a loaded topic for so many of us because of the stories that we have around it, but it's really just a neutral resource. So a lot of the work that I do with people, whether they're working with demons or not, is helping them see like money is like air. Like air is something that we all need every single day to survive. But I don't know about y'all, but most of us don't walk around going like, am I going to get another breath today? Like we don't even think about it. We just know that when we need it, it's there for us. And so as we shift our perspective around what money is and we take it off the pedestal, because that's such a huge thing, especially in the business world, people will be like, I want a 10K month. I want a 20K month. And it's like this big thing that they're making so important. But when you take it off the pedestal and be like, yeah, that's what I want to create. Okay. How do we do this? What does this feel like? How do I need to be thinking in order to create that result? It just neutralizes a lot of the energy around it. And we need to like really detach from that importance that we're giving money. And then when we bring demons into it, the way I teach this is with the elemental demons. And so Lucifer is going to help you see where you're thinking about money. Leviathan is going to help you tap into the way that you're feeling about money. Polaris is going to help you tap into your passion, your drive. Where are you not going all in? Where are you slowing yourself down? And then Belial is going to help you with those very grounded, practical actions. And so the work that I teach, it's part of it is bringing into things that I've just learned over the years from my own experience, because I used to have such a messed up relationship with money where I would open up my bank account and I remember having multiple six figures there and feeling terrified that I was going to lose it all. And this isn't logical. Like, the numbers are right there. You have a business that's working properly. You have the evidence of safety and security, yet internally you're not feeling those things within yourself, right? So I've done a lot of work to cultivate those feelings within myself, and then bringing in the demonic elements. They can give you that spiritual perspective, because we can't see our own shit, right? Like, we work with coaches, we work with mentors and guides and things like that. That can be very helpful. But when you have a spirit ally by your side that can be like, hey, you're doing that thing again. Let's course correct when it comes to the way that we're thinking about money right now. Like a big one is, someone's getting an unexpected bill in the mail, but they've been chanting wealth affirmations for 3 months, and then they're freaking out when they get the bill. It's like, well, wait a second. How would that wealthy version of you be dealing with this circumstance? And demons can help you come in and be like, okay, these are the energies that we need to shift. There's some fear that we need to transmute. There's a different way of seeing this. There's a different way of thinking about this. And there are different actions that we can take in our life that are going to support the financial reality that we want to be experiencing.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So is the Money Alchemy program, is that a set course, or is that still one-on-one with you? How is it always, is everything you're doing is always includes a one-on-one with you, or is it scaled to the point where you can kind of have a course that's given?
The way I have that set up is Demonic Money Alchemy. It's a course where you go through the trainings yourself, but if you go with the pay in full option, you get a one-to-one call. And the same thing with most of my programs. I usually offer that as like a bonus if they do the pay in full, just so they can have that support. But I like to keep things fresh and mix things up. So sometimes I might include like 30 days of Voxer if you go with the pay in full, or I might add on some one-to-one support at a reduced rate for people who are inside the program for that support, really depending on what I feel aligned with during the launch of it. But right now it's instant access course with that option of one-to-one.
That's amazing. I love, Aina, I'm so glad that we're talking about this at the end, because people can then, now they've listened, you've learned so much from Kelly. She's given us such great takeaways to understand our relationship with demons, our relationship with money, our relationship with ourselves, our intuition, how to start to access those things. And now, I'm thinking about it, like, you've done all the work for us, right? You've created the frameworks and put it down in black and white to say, hey guys, you can do this yourself. Like, you don't need to have me with you, but I'm there to help guide you and further your learning. But this all exists, right? It exists within you and it exists within the universe. So you just have to kind of take the steps and be open to what it's willing to give to you.
So I love that you work with women, that you focus on women. A lot of what your content speaks to is really helping empower women. I love that you focus on that thing. And what you do is very niche. Like, not everyone's doing it. So people out there that want this type of support, definitely check out Kelly, and we'll keep you posted, because I intend to check it out all for myself. And if Liz is lucky, I'll share with her.
We really appreciate you being here and just have had the best time. So with that, we will bid everyone adieu. Have a wonderful wherever you are on this planet and in this universe. And we'll catch you next time. Kelly, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right.
Take
Next
care.
time.